Hi guys, how you been? This is Matthias, and this is my series where I'm reviewing the American National Security Strategy document, which was published on November of 2025. This is my sixth episode in that series, and today is January 15, 2026. Um, so far, I've done a total of five videos, and yesterday I was reviewing the last paragraph. I know I dwell on that paragraph a lot because maybe I find it to be the linchpin of the entire security document. The rationale behind, the core idea behind the security strategy seems to be the perception that Americans have been unnecessarily overstretching themselves and making themselves busy bodies in taking care of the burden of the world, or they're shouldering that. And that is the elitist globalist idea, right? Like the elitists are growing to be globalist and they want to go around the world and take care of every other problem. But uh, that was bringing a lot of burden on the shoulder of the American people. And the patience of the Americans is not inexhaustible. I mean, they would be, they were growing impatient. Not only that, they were not seeing any, they were not seeing how that's going to be related to their national interest. All right, for example, the United States is part of NATO and defending the Europeans. And what's the economic political advantage of that to the United States? Or the United States have bases in Japan and responsible for the defense of Japan. And how is that going? How is that related with the security, safety, and prosperity of the United States? So the people are not able to create a relationship between American geopolitical involvement, American foreign policy, uh, vis-a-vis their domestic economic or security issues. And uh, I was totally trying to debunk that because I believe that there is real benefit drawn from American international involvement. Actually, America cannot afford to play head in the sand, and it has to directly involve itself in the affairs of the world as much as it can, because if history is something that from which we have to learn, it has been proven time and again. The more America, not only America, but if we want to particularize it with the United States, the more the United States disengage, what happens is the problems and all those geopolitical and international problems, they will just keep building flags, and they building momentum, and before before they know it, the Americans would be dragged into problems. All right, so it's better to nip it at the bud, to keep up to date, to keep themselves up and relevant in the international, and also we have to create relationships, connections, or alliances, so that you are you have um, intelligence source, cooperation, and so forth. So it's so detrimental to the American political and economic advantage. And I was trying to show that in so many ways that I can. Um, yes, but that doesn't mean that also, for example, there was a freeloading attempt, all right? For example, America has been a dominant factor in the European political economic arena, all right? Since the end of Second World War, because America was instrumental, more or less, I think, I don't know. I mean, you cannot think about alternative realities. What if this happened, or what if this didn't happen? But maybe Germany would have got its ways, if the United States didn't involve in, tip the scale of the balance in favor of Britain and France. Maybe, it looks like that. So the presence of Americans have given them, this unparalleled advantage, and they seem to be dictating things that happens in Europe, and somehow that created, or at times, uh, even though you don't do it deliberately, all right. When there is a greater power taking care of things, people would forget their responsibility, and that response, like that what you call it, that resignation and willful resignation. At times, it might tend to be some kind of what you call it, dereliction, whereby people forget to do some of the things. For example, like I was watching this documentary about some real estate agreement between certain Chinese billionaire and some Europeans, and the Chinese billionaires want to buy this vast expanse of land around North Pole, all right, yeah, and around North Pole, I think probably in Norway. In that place is a private property that that real that real estate, that land is. It looks like it was a private property, and the guy was getting a very lucrative deal, and he wants to sell it. But the concern is there was what you call it, a security concern. If the Chinese get all right, land use right and so forth, and they were also trying to build this, like icebreaker ships, which would be, which would be traveling on the northern part of, the globe. I mean, normally ships would be transported, all right, the normal global highway, like a ship's highway is, you come through, like the Strait of Taiwan, then you come through the Strait of Malacca, and through the Strait of Red Sea, and through Suez Canal, you make it to Europe. But they want to find some shorter paths, all right, and that was not possible, in earlier time, in earlier times, because the northern part of the globe is covered with ice, but now there are technological advancement, and they can use this icebreakers, and these icebreakers can shorten the distance between China and the greater part of Europe. Not only that, it would also give them easy access to the United States, if you consider security wise. And the Chinese also were saying, I mean, we want to be part of the what you call it, the North Arctic. Is that Arctic or Antarctic? I think Arctic, right? The northern part. We want to be part of that. I mean, they don't have um, geographic access. All right, they don't have. China is more or less, outside of that Arctic circle, but I mean, it doesn't have geographic right border. Uh, um, Access to that area. But it says, it has to do with environmental protection. It's a human right issue. They come up with all those, nonsensical explanation, and they are trying to get their foothold in that northern Arctic circle. All right, to make themselves. There is some kind of alliance called, an Atlantic alliance, or Northern Atlantic, or some alliance, all right, I forgot the exact name of that thing. And the Chinese, though they don't have any, geographic access, which entitles them to be part of that alliance, somehow they get themselves into it. And there is some, Second World War agreement, and they just manipulated that. They use that as a foothold, and they want to expand and make them part and parcels of that part. By doing that, they want to project power. And the documentary has been relating that, and that was somehow unnerving the Americans, all right. And not it looks like what was unnerving them was, I mean, the United States is instrumental, or it's foughting the security bailoff, so to speak. All right, Europe, and is protecting them, is providing them all kinds of protection from, let's say, Russia, and also, that perennial misunderstanding and conflict amongst themselves. Or America was a linchpin, or so to speak, the middle pillar of the NATO alliance. But once they offload that responsibility to the United States, all right. I mean, all right, uh, Europeans are secure largely due to the American military strength and bill and so forth. But the Americans are not doing, like, one thing that we should understand. The Americans are not doing that only for themselves. Well, like, for, like, for Europeans. All right, it's not as if they are trying, what you call it, oh, you, our European ancestors, our European brothers. All right, like, what would you do without us? So we're gonna come in, like, shoulder with the burdens and so forth. No, like, as I told you, America is part of NATO, or the formation of part of, well, the formation of NATO become instrumental, because if America didn't engage itself in such a way, even though it requires to, like, keep itself away from this, what seems to be their internal, perennial, like, almost cultural conflict tendencies of the Europeans, one way or another, they are going to pull it back into that quagmire of, conflict. Therefore, like, you cannot play head in the sand. Rather, you should be proactive, and you should be there, and you should protect. That's, like, that's what the story of, or the story of, CIA tells you. That's what uh, the story of, NATO tells you. That's what the story of the United Nations tells you. All right, like, people come out to form the so-called United Nations and declare, like, universal, Bill of Rights or human rights, and somehow, like, devise and promulgate such a sketchy international relationship, like, international law, so to speak. All right, it becomes important, because if everybody is left to its own devices, that's not going to result in a global peace. And if, and like, not only it's not going to result in a global peace, but inevitably things would be derailed and force other countries, I mean, like, it would be, even though the world has never been peaceful, there has always been conflict after conflict, or misunderstanding after misunderstanding, power projection, like, it's filled with, what you call it, geopolitical maneuvers. But um, but um, somehow the formation of international alliances like NATO, somehow the creation of, like, these umbrella organizations like the United Nations, and, like, the Declaration of the Universal Human Rights, and somehow, like, devising this sketchy international law and so forth, mitigates certain contents. All right, so, the Americans, what I'm trying to say is, the Americans are not footing the bills of NATO, so to speak, if they were. All right, I don't think it was a complete, like, underwriting of the, what you call it, the expense of NATO. But, like, given their power, given their interest, given their, I mean, what you call it, they are, like, the big brothers. All right, like, even the Russian called America Uncle Sam. All right, like, it's the way it is. Like, you can't debate that. So, simply because of this, like, the because of their ginormity, all right, because of their size, because of their geographic, historical, economic, political advantage, inevitably the Americans, have, like, a higher stakehold in the NATO or any other global alliance. All right, like, what you call it, they exert, unmatched and parallel force, so they would be expending more, like, dictating more and so forth. And even though they do that, they are not doing it out of, like, philanthropy. All right, it's not just some kind of, um like, what you call it, just a philanthropic or aid. It is, they're doing it. Actually, I was trying to show you something, like, from, like, from, uh, Adam Smith, I guess, Smith, okay, Wales of Nations. He has this concept. I mean, like, it's a famous concept, like, a famous concept, and it goes something like that. All right, whoever offers me to another a bargain of any kind, like, let me, I think, like, Batman, like, let me, he's talking about economics. All right, like, you could not exist without trade in this world. Actually, I don't know if you listen to me. I was discussing something similar to it in the other series, which I titled like the good and the old ways. All right, the idea is man is a political animal. All right, man is a political animal, and I asked, what do you understand by that saying? All right, like what does it mean to say man is a political animal? All right, especially if you are caught up in the modern like rendering or definition of the politics, which has to do about machination and blah blah and prevarication and so forth, you'd completely miss the concept. But if you go to the root word, which means like polity comes from polis in a sense, like a polity, right, and a city, and it comes from that. Right? The Greek origin of the word politics is it is a city. So man is a political animal means man is a city animal, kinda. You like almost you can if you literally translated it, it would have something like a sense which look like that. So he's a political animal, meaning he's a social being. He's a social animal who cannot exist in a sense, like when I say exist in the best form of existence. All right, like somebody can lose his mind or be something like a unibomber, about him, like there is this lunatic mathematician who's been eluding FBI for 27 years, like doing all kinds of terrorist acts because he believed that the world is going wrong or whatever. All right, he was like how he managed to do that is by living alone somewhere in the woods, all right, in some hut, all right. So, except such like outliers, people are political in a sense. We can get the we cannot meet all of our needs, including security, including economic needs. All right, not only does social emotional support group, no, no, we have to depend on the skills and the security other providers. So this as a result of that, we cannot. I mean, we are not this kind of beings who can meet all of their needs by themselves. All right, we cannot be building our houses, like the roads, all right, the schools, we cannot be writing all the books, we cannot be knowing everything. We need other people to write the books, all right, to make us the movies, to build our houses, build our roads, and so it's a social, we can only function and get everything that we need if we put ourselves in a social setting. All right, so a polity is almost even Aristotle argues to the point that state is a nature. All right, people cannot live out of it. You cannot outgrow it. Actually, you grow into it, and that's what uh, that's what Adam Smith is also trying to say. In almost he says in almost here. This is the so-called An Inquiry into the Worlds of Nations, written by Adam Smith. This is an old book, but the ideas never die. All right, they are transcendental. And Adam Smith says in almost every other race of animals, all right, each individual when it's grown up to maturity is entirely independent and in its natural state has occasion for the assistance of no other living creature. I mean, I don't know how true it is, but the idea is what every other creature other than man, all right, those animals mature into independence. All right, they were born and they will be taken care, all right, tutored and so forth by their family and so forth. Once they reach to maturity, they just break away, become independent. That's the the nature of beasts, the nature of all kinds of other animals. I don't know how true it is because at times you see packs of lies living together. They don't break away, but the idea is uh all the rest of animals mature into independence. But man, humanity as a political animal, all right, he's a political animal in a sense. He grows into polity, into society. But that growing is not just something personal and so forth. Human beings cannot live alone. just for the simple reason that they cannot afford all of their economic conveniences by themselves, and they cannot afford their own security by themselves. And this natural, almost, like, stipulation is not only an individual thing, all right? It also applies to societies. Nations cannot, there is no self-sufficient nation. Yeah, if you think that it is simply a misconstruction or misconstruing of nature, what you call it, reality, you don't understand it, right? Politics have stated it long time ago that man is a political animal. He cannot live alone. So it is if you cannot live alone, the best way is find a way how to live together, not find a way how to run away, kind of thing. All right. So, but man has almost constant occasion for the help of, his brethren, and it's in vain for him to expect it from their benevolence only. I mean, I want you to see the progression of the ideal. All right, as I mean, the premise, the first premise, or what you call it, the interlude, uh, might be a little sketchy. Every animal grows into independence, but man grows into, society. Uh, I don't know how accurate that is, but man is a political animal. I think it's irrefutable. We all agree that we cannot live happily, all right, if we run into the woods and start taking care of us. I mean, we couldn't even make our own brush. I mean, maybe if you are Ethiopian, you can use the wood, but what you call it, life would be harder. All right, life would be harder. It would be solitary. It would be brutish. It would be that state of war would come. Right, it would be short. It would be nasty. I'm trying to use what Thomas Hobbes was saying. Thomas Hobbes was saying, when he described the state of war. So, so the idea is man cannot live alone. All right, he matures into polity, but because he needs the assistance of other people. But the most important thing, all right, the most important thing, even though he needs the assistance and help of his fellow right citizen human beings, he would be so stupid, so silly to expect that assistance out of the benevolence of his friend or his fellow citizen. It doesn't work. That, what you call society is not designed in such a way. Man, I mean, the temperament, the anthropology, if I may say, the anthropological feature of humanity is we cannot afford all of our needs, we cannot afford all of our security by ourselves. But if we expect that thing to be given to us from our fellow citizens out of their benevolence, we're making another stupid mistake. No, 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 no. He says, he will be more likely to prevail if he can interest their self love in his favor. Everyone loves himself, everyone minds his own business, everyone takes care of himself. Therefore, we're doomed, so to speak, to live together, all right, in a polity setting, all right, because we need the succor or support of our fellow citizens as they do ours, all right. But if we expect that support, that that contribution to come from the benevolence of our fellow human being, we are the most pathetic creature. It doesn't come that way. Rather, what you do is, the expression is a bit, it says, we can, we get what we want from people if we interest their self love in our favor. All right. They is they are, they love themselves. All right. All they care about is themselves. All right. We have to find a way how to use that self that love of themselves in our favor. That's how it works. Simply, what is that? It is symbiotic relationship. You give them what they want, what they need. You feed their self-interest. You provide what they need. so that they can give you, they can be almost bound, all right, to give you what you want. It is a mutually symbiotic relationship. It's not about begging. Like, you cannot beg them. You cannot, what you call it. The ancients, all right, the ancients, if they want from something from somebody else, what they do, they break his card, give it to me. No, that's barbaric. All right, what you do is, okay, you negotiate, but negotiation is not, just something verbal. All right, you give them what they want. So if you give me this, I give you that. That's that's humanity. All right, that's humanity. And if you think other than that, I mean, I know this is at individual level, and especially Adam Smith is talking about it in terms of economics, all right, the dynamics of economics. But in my view, it governs also our social, political, and so forth relationships. It's a symbiotic relationship. This is not benevolent. All right. So you have to, what is that, like, I couldn't paraphrase it, like Adam Smith's English as like, he will be more likely to prevail in a sense to get what he wants, all right, if he can interest their self-love in his favor. It's like, they love themselves, eh, they bring themselves ahead of anyone, all right, that's given, and nothing bad about it. Like, don't complain, don't whine about it. Rather, what you do is find a way so that that self-love of themselves can be used in your favor. So, show them that it's for their own advantage to do for him what he requires of them. That's how you talk, all right? I know you love yourself. I know you love money. I understand that, and I don't have a problem. But all right, and I'm gonna give you money. But, like, I give you this money if you give me this. So it's a symbiotic relationship. All right. So it's not, like, somebody going out there and being kind and so forth. It's, like, the original, the ultimate kind is, in my view, him. All right, God. Like, he gives without, yeah, without thinking. I mean, he created the world. He created us. He distributed the talent. He packed the earth with all kinds of minerals. All right. He gives us the oxygen, the universe. All right. The human race, or the land, the water, everything, without asking, like, not know what you call it. He just provided it. I mean, he's the original source. Other than it's trading, but trading is not only business. It is, all right. You trade, like, benefits. You trade securities. You trade agreement. You trade, like, alliances. All right. Scratch my back, blah blah. I will scratch you. So whoever offers to another bargain of any kind proposes to do this. Therefore, the entire concept of bargaining, the entire concept of, making a deal is about this. All right. I give you this, you give me this. But, all right. I know this gets a little bit complicated. If you're like Trump, like, I'm the ultimate deal maker, all right? Like, but, like Putin says, shows you the middle finger, kind of thing. I mean, you should know how to interest their, like, how to use their self-interest. All right. It's not about, like, thinking I have this, like, and that, and you go to them. What if that didn't interest them? You have to find something that interests them. You have to tickle that thing out of them, kind of thing. All right. Give me that which I want, and you shall have this which you want. It's the meaning of every such offer. And it's in this manner that we obtain from one another the far greater part of those good offices which you stand in need of. All right. Give me this, is like, don't you think? I mean, I don't know where to put it. Is this, like, the good old ways, all right? The good and old ways, or part of the security. But, like, you can say, I mean, that's my prism, all right? That's my prism through which I look at the world. That's my worldview. And, what I'm trying to say is, um, where are you, mister? I'm looking for, is it, I was trying to, okay. Um, so it's all about it, all right? It's ultimately, this is politics. All right. This is all about politics. This is the core, the foundation, the beginning, the middle, and the end of politics, if I'm not mistaken. All right. It's all about making a deal. Because we're designed to be political animals. That means we are social beings. We live by the mechanics of providing what people want and in exchange for what we want from them. All right. This is the essence, the fabric, the designs of, politics, a polity. So when you go and make a deal, when you go and make an alliance, it is not, what you call it, you are not doing it for them. Or are you doing it, or you cannot get what you want from them by simply appealing to their benevolence. That's stupid. Actually, I mean, I like, Adam Smith, even the beggar doesn't get that way. Actually, he's talking in terms of economics, but he says even the beggar, all right, doesn't get his living by simply begging. No, like when he begs you, all right, he's offering you an opportunity to satisfy, to do kindness, kind of thing. Not only that, even if you give him what he wants, he has to depend on this bargaining mechanics of society to get what he wants. For example, you give him a trouser or a pant, all right, or some clothes. He and it doesn't fit him. What does he do? He goes to other places and exchange it for something that fits him, or he sells it for money and use that money to buy whatever he wants. So it's we are interconnected amongst ourselves, all right, as an individual or as nations with this mechanics of bargaining. And so it is not from the benevolence of a butcher. I like this expression, all right? It's not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, all right? You don't go to a restaurant and expect, the restaurant owner to provide you your dinner out of his kindness. No, you just pay him and bring, make you bring him the kind of dinner that you want to have. And he would be toiling, sweating himself to make sure that you get what you want because you're gonna give him what you want he wants, which is you get your dinner, he get his money. And before you get you get your money to get your dinner, maybe you go out and sell your skill, all right, or do some trading with other people, which you do the same to get your money. So this thing is a chain of given, receive. This is a chain of symbiotic relation that that extends across all humanity and all kinds of relationships, especially in a political setting. And so it's not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from the regard to their own interest. All right, they provide me, they brew the beer or bake the bread because they were regarding their own interest, not your they didn't know you for their mother. They didn't know, for example, all right, when somebody goes out to sell something, he doesn't know where his customers live. Maybe he has never seen him before. He doesn't know if he exists, but he knows something. We are bounded together by this natural mechanics of symbiotic relationships. We give and you know like um, uh and it shall be given unto us, even though that's in a trade sense. All right. We address ourselves not to their humanity, but to their self love. So, like, we are not saying, "Oh, Mister, please." No, no. All right. It's not like we are not appealing to their humanity. Rather, I know you love yourself, and that's all right. I do the same, but I do this for you, and do this for me, so we can get, like, it's a win-win solution, because we both go happy. All right. We address ourselves not to their humanity, but to their self-love, and never talk to them of our own necessities, but of our, like, and never talk to them of our own necessities, but of their own advantage. We don't go and say, "I'm hungry." No, no, no. We don't say. We go and say, "Have money." Like, it's like, "I'm hungry." No, like, we don't say that. We say, "I have money, you have bread." All right, let's exchange it. So what we appeal to is their desire to get their hands on our money, so that we can get what we want from them. So what we appeal to is not their benevolence, rather their self-interest. So nobody but a beggar, all right, chooses. It's an old English, and chooses is written the way it should be written all the time, instead of you make double O in, like, is that true? All right, it is supposed to be written like that. All right. The charity, nobody but a beggar chooses to depend chiefly upon the benevolence of his fellow citizens. Like, it's only beggars who do that. Even a beggar does not depend upon it entirely. All right. The charity of well disposed people indeed supplies him with the whole fund of his subsistence. Of course, like, he depends, but not entirely. So, like, his seed capital comes from the benevolence of some people. All right. Seed capital. They provided him something to start with. All right. The charity of world dispersed people indeed supplies him with the whole fund of his subsistence. But though this principle ultimately provides him with all the necessities of life, which he has occasion for, it neither does nor can provide him with them as he has occasion for them. The greater part of his occasional wants are supplied in the same manner as those of other people, by treaty, by barter, and by purchase. All right. Because, like, simply he took that, like, initial capital, so to speak, and you, like, puts it into that machine of bartering, so that machine of bargaining, machine of that social mechanics of deal making, to tailor his original gross capital into his specific needs, so to speak. All right. Supplied in the same manner as those are, like, with the money which well, like, from here, at times I get lost. Like, I was trying to color it. I don't know where I've been, but like, the coloring thing is not working. With the money which one man gives him, he purchases food. All right. So, like, you give him money, you give him bargaining power. All right. He goes out and he doesn't beg them, even though some are, like, notorious. They have money, they still beg. All right. Um, like, but, like, once he get money, he goes out and he buys. Right. The old clothes which another bestows upon him, he exchange for other old clothes which suits him better, or for lodging, or for food, or for money with which he can buy either food, clothes, or lodging as he has occasion. Therefore, even the beggar, all right, even though the initial capital, all right, or whatever starts him is the kindness and benevolence of other citizens, all right, he has to somehow put it into the machine, the bargaining machine, so that it can tailor him to his specific need, or to, like, in the words or expression of Adam Smith, uh, to every other thing which he has occasion for. So what I'm trying to say is, international, like, in terms of be it international relationship, be it domestic politics, all right, this is the basic principle. It is on this bartering, it's bargaining, it's like by appealing to each other's self-interest rather than to each other's humanity or benevolence, that we function out of the society. That's the binding, governing, super, what you call it, super structure, all right, that governs, that sets the the rules, that sets the boundaries, all right. So the Americans are not going in forming NATO alliances because they want to protect their European alliance. No, no, no. Yes, the European alliance gave what you call it, the bandwagon, so to speak, on the actually not so to speak, it's what you call it, an academic term. They bandwagon on the American security apparatus, and they make the best out of it. All right, and they are doing that to balance against other hostile, belligerent, all right, and toward forces towards them. And but they do that by giving Americans, by serving certain American interests. All right, so it's what you call it. They're not doing each other a benevolence. All right, of course there would be misunderstanding because like the Europeans might be saying you are becoming a master, all right, instead of a partner. They might complain like that. The Americans might be saying you are acting like a free leader instead of a partner, all right. That's now, all right, the undercurrent thing, it sounds, if I'm not mistaken, all right, it sounds that's the undercurrent tension between the United States and the Europeans, if there is any tension. All right. The Europeans, they are getting big mouths. All right, saying like blah blah blah, blah. You are acting like a tyrant. All right. You want to tell us to do this, you want to actually what you call it. You want to dictate the foreign policies of each European nation from the State Department. All right. You tell us don't do this, don't make this deal, blah blah. And we are a sovereign nation. We are tired of we are partners. You are not our what you call it, our king and so forth. It looks like the underthought, right? If I'm not mistaken, sounds like that. And the Americans are what the heck, dude. Do you forget? If it is now for me, blah 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 blah. This would happen to you. All right. Therefore, you are acting like a freeloader. All right, you don't pay. Raise up your NATO contribution from 2% to 5%. So that's how you manage. That's misunderstanding is always there in a partnership. All right, and the that's where you need level-headed thinking. All right, so that what you call it. I mean, you cannot live without each other, and if living together proves also difficult, I mean the wisdom is in getting the balance, all right. So the misunderstanding can be there, all right. In from the European point of view, from their vantage point, it looks like the Americans are bossing them around. They're treating them like little boys, and they feel like they have lost their sovereignty in their foreign policy relations and so forth. From the American point, no, 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 we are not bossing you around. You are just what you call it, freeloading. You get all your security benefit from us, but you wanna go and flirt with China because instead of house ordering your house and making you I mean, you want to be a vassal to China, and that's going to pose a security threat to us. So get your act together, you whatever, like couch potatoes. All right. So that was what I was trying to say. All right, you have to understand the contention, you have to understand the dynamics, and carve it in such a way, in my view. All right, you need leadership. All right, you need leadership both in Europe. I mean, the Europeans have their own problem. All right, but that doesn't mean that the Americans are angels. Also. All right, they are to get their acts together. So Among which, and like among the things that they should do is they should stop that this kind of nonsense. This is not, befitting American. All right, to say that we are but like we are shouldering the burden of the world. All right, our intellectuals are, very idealistic people. They think that the Americans have this inexhaustible fund. All right, we have this. All right, our wealth is our wealth is inexhaustible. Our patience is inexhaustible, and so forth. But that's not true. Actually, the American peoples are questioning whether there is any in the, any benefit that they're drawing out of this alliance, NATO, or or either United Nations, and so forth and so forth. So they are proving to be cost centers, no gain, just investment in benevolence. And we were even kind enough to do it, but now enough is enough, because um you're taking our kindness for foolishness. So it's Rihanna out singing, but the song works in politics. It so that was what I was trying to say. Now the security document, goes on to say President Trump's necessary welcome correction. So it was, we were in ear, all right, we were earing, and now Trump comes and we're changing course, all right. There was a, I mean, we're simply laddening, breaking our back by, shouldering all kinds of responsibility, all kinds of freeloader, all right. But now Trump comes and he, at the ultimate deal maker. So you give me this, I give you that kind of thing. But I don't think that. Let's see, what it says. So Trump is coming to make correction because the American people are, being taken advantage of, as he repeatedly says. Chinese are raping our country. All right, they are eating our lunch, but we have stupid politicians. They are, so idealistic. They talk about this, illusory things, and instead of looking at things the way they were supposed to be looked at and being realistic about it. So none of this was inevitable. President Trump's first administration proved that with the right leadership making the right choices, all the above could and should have been avoided and much else achieved. So in my view, his and the security documents understanding of the problem itself is skewed. So they think that the Americans had been disadvantaged, and this disadvantage was, this being raped, was not something unavoidable. It could have been avoided. Not only could it have been avoided, but we could have achieved much more things. And now he's going to do that. He and his team successfully marshaled America's great strengths to correct course and begin ushering in a new golden age for our country. To continue the United States on that path is the overarching purpose of President Trump's second administration and of this document. It is a baloney in my view, all right? Just maybe he just talk tough and somehow, force people, uh, I don't know, project yourself as the toughest person out there. But I don't know if that's, no toughness. The question before us now: what should the United States want, or what are our available means to get it? All right, and they say what should the United States? I don't know. All right, what should you want? All right, I don't know. How can we connect ends and means into a viable national security strategy? So simply, I don't know if you put it set an objective, all right, set a strategy for achieving the objective, and go out and get it kind of thing. That's the essence of this paragraph, if I understand it correctly. Um, so what are the objective, or what should the United States want? That's I guess what should be the the United States foreign policy objectives. And I don't know, they don't want to use such term because that's intellectual, all right? Talking common man, language. What should the United States run instead of saying what should be the United States foreign policy objective, all right? What do we want overall? Question one. First and foremost, we want the continued survival and safety of the United States as an independent sovereign republic whose government secures the God-given natural rights of its citizens and prioritize their well-being and interests. I mean, what you call it. In my view, I mean, at the opening of this series, all right, I said the United States is past this, all right. There is no, what you call it. The United States is perfectly capable of defending itself, all right. Or let's say, what you call it. There are layers of security, all right. This is the third layer in my view. That means we're fighting for the third layer, what you call it. If it is, bum, 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 bum. Okay, all right. What are you talking about? You would say, mm, because all right. Um, if this be the United States, all right, there is one, two, three, all right. That's how I understand, all right. There are three layers of security. The first is, all right, pushing the frontiers of liberal democracy, all right, pushing the frontiers of liberal democracy, so that major countries I think I don't know, no, honestly, by now, Russia is in this questionable status, all right, can you say, I mean, except for the fact that they are nuclear power, all right, uh, are they proving to be superpowers? I don't know, all right, but China, all right, but also Russia, let's say, all right, if countries like Russia and China become liberally democratic, so the security objective is, it's what you call it. Uh, why should the United States care about that? That's it looks the primary debate in the United States, but it's debating what you call it. For example, an American by all standard lives much better than, all right, by all, even the poorest American. Someone out there on the street might be, all right, living, if I'm not mistaken, a better life, all right, in terms of quality of life, all right, maybe the average African who's having his own house and so forth and so forth, all right. So if you do the comparison, why would the United States work to somehow alleviate the problem of homelessness in the United States? Because even the most homeless, you wouldn't say, all right, if possible, I mean, you can eradicate homelessness completely out of the United States. You have to push, all right? You have to push the frontier. That's your job. That's the that's existence. You exist to improve the purpose of existence. You want more if you can, all right? I mean, if you can colonize, let alone Mars, Pluto, create you keep expanding as much as you can. That is one of the objectives of existence. All right. All right. We are colonizers. All right. We colonize the earth. So the United States, the idea is, why does the United States care about extending the frontiers of liberal democracy? Because it's the frontier. It's for example, why are we not settling with the first 13 states? No, we extend. That's our nature. We expand, all right? And the way we do that is to further our interest. In the United States is supposed to extend liberal democracy into these countries as Russia and China, because if those countries become liberally democratic, and because liberal democracy, all right, the concept, the notion of liberal democracy is creating internal capacity and working with other peoples, all right, like it's what you call it, you revive your nation and you cooperate with other nations. Ultimately, the ultimate objective of liberal democracy is that way, politically, economically, and so forth. So that means, like, it took out most of the reasons for conflict and rather opens, like all kinds of doors for cooperation and, like, a win-win solution, mutually, the way I described it earlier, all right, like, you don't, first you build on your strengths, you make your own money, then you use that money to bargain with the butcher to get you the meat, kind of thing, all right. That's the whole essence of liberal democracy. Domestically, that's how it thinks, and internationally, that's how it acts. So it first creates internal capacity and use internal capacity to bargain with others to get what it wants from the others. But, like, that bargaining, that is the mechanics is, it is, like symbiotic. I give you this, you give me this. I scratch your back, you scratch my back. That's the arrangement. Therefore, you strive for that because it makes life easier. Not only easier, it makes it better, and it makes it cooperative. It avoids all the danger, the pitfalls. So if you can, the United States, like, if they can, they should work for the creation of a liberally democratic order across the world, so that they each build themselves and cooperate, instead of build, like, or like, build themselves and fight for more influence. That's all the other political system. All right. Liberal democracy is build yourself inside, and, like, you use that as a bargaining chip, all right, to give and take, or to bind yourself with other nations on the merits of give and, like, what you call it, on the, not on the merits, but on the principle of um, exchange, all right, bargaining. So that is where the United States is fighting. That's its frontier now, all right. But if this frontier fails, and, all right, the United States, while trying to do that, for example, if it faces the kind of Russian aggression that you are seeing now in Ukraine, or the kind of, like, Chinese aggression that you are seeing in the southern China Sea, uh, like, that's, like, what you call it. It's not even, that one is not even the failure of this frontier, all right, this external frontier, all right. It's not the failure of that. Rather, uh, we're fighting here. If you are an American, you would say, we are in this, for, like, we are trying to defend this frontier, all right, the expansion of this frontier. But let's say the Chinese proved invincible, all right, the Russian proved invincible, crashed Ukraine, crashed Taiwan, occupied the entire southern China Sea, and are marching. Now you come to this security layer, all right, to this security layer, where now you are, like, in a defensive position to make sure that these countries do not do this thing. That means, like, maybe you might engage in a war with them, kind of thing, all right. And you engage in a war, somehow you lose that, right. Now you come to the security layer, which is defending the United States itself, the homeland, from such aggression. We'll continue in the next video. Thank you for listening.